I want to talk about the tragedies this week in Oklahoma. This is the 2-year anniversary of the Joplin tornado that we had 90 miles from my home, a district that I represented for a long time before I came to the Senate and still get to represent now as part of our state. But I just want to be sure that we take time yet again today to let people in Oklahoma know that our thoughts are with them, our prayers are with them. First responders are continuing to search and rescue. Their recovery efforts are happening. Words clearly can't describe the loss that these communities and the community particularly of Moore, Oklahoma, have had in the last few days. I know the nation is praying for them, and I am too, for the people who lost children at the local elementary school. The thought of sending somebody to school in the morning and them not coming home that day is a tragedy that will affect people's lives forever. The friends that are lost, the family members that are lost, will always be a part of the ongoing impact that they have on that family and that community. In Joplin, Missouri, 2 years ago, we had 161 people died. And the community has come back in incredible ways, but you never want to minimize in any way the loss of those 161 lives. And every one of them had a story to tell, just as every one of the people lost in Moore, Oklahoma, and in other places in Oklahoma in recent days, and have a story to tell. Big storm affected people. You pretty quickly figure out that while you regret the property you lost is not really all that important, but the lives that were lost were. In addition to 161 people killed in Joplin, Missouri on May the 22nd, 2011, 7,000 homes were gone. And I was there the next day or the day after, and they were gone. It was like a nuclear blast, and the pictures from Moore, Oklahoma remind me of that. 500 businesses were gone. I will say that for the people in Joplin, they immediately began to think about Joplin tomorrow instead of Joplin yesterday, and 2 years later, there's still a community that's dealing with loss, but a community that's building new schools and new businesses and houses under construction. I talked to someone just yesterday who was, their family member was about to get into a house that Habitat had helped them build. One of the things I found out, Madam President, that I had never really thought, even though I'd had a lot of experience with storm loss, never anything like 7,000 homes at one time, the people that are the least likely to have insurance are the people that have their house paid for. And the people that are in that group that are the least likely are the people that may have inherited the house from their parents, because there's no banker to tell you got to have an insurance policy. Maybe it was just kind of a seamless moving back home or staying home, and suddenly that house is gone. And by the way, this is something that the federal government really, probably rightly, doesn't have a role in. If you don't have insurance, you've made that choice not to have insurance. When we talk about federal aid, we're almost always talking about cleaning up the streets, the water systems, the power facilities, getting the community back in order. There are some things for public buildings that are available. It's not we're going to go in and help you rebuild your house if you chose not to have insurance. That's not what happens, but volunteers immediately show up. Now, the first volunteers are your neighbors. The first responders are your neighbors. And this happened this week in Oklahoma. It happened 2 years ago in Joplin, where as soon as people have brushed themselves off and found their own family members, they begin to look up and down the street for who they can help and who they can help dig out of rubble or who they can help secure something that they're concerned about. So those are the first responders. And then your neighbors from not too far away. In fact, Oklahoma's right on right on the edge of our state. There are neighbors, and there were people from public officials, fire and water and police from Joplin that were there within 12 hours. And they'll be back when they're needed to be back. There's a lot to be done, by the way, and the one thing I'd advise people who want to know what they can personally do to help, there are places to send money, there are charities to help that are helping. All those things are important and good. If you personally want to help, my advice would be, if you can at all, find out before you go what it is you're going to be doing. The last thing that communities in this kind of situation need is a lot of people wandering around wondering what they can do to help just to be managed. There are plenty of people wandering around already. But if you can, through your church, through your civic club, through some organization that you've helped in the past, through Habitat for Humanity, through a group that you've worked with before that does this, link up with them and go, that's probably the better thing to do. There is a lot to be done. First responders, as I said, are your neighbors. And by the way, those are also the last responders. They're the people that are still there 2 years later helping build a Habitat for Humanity house, are probably, by that point, your neighbors. They're probably not Habitat for Humanity 1,000 miles away. They're the local people who have finally found another family that yet needs help and is helping them. This disaster, Madam President, by all recent standards, deserves federal assistance. FEMA's there, but beyond that, the federal assistance that we give when a disaster is too big for a community to handle on its own and too big for the community and the state they're in to handle on their own, that's when the federal government should step in and does and will. There are people all over the country who want to help, but they also are going to be helping as taxpayers. And it appears that the resources to do that are in the current pipeline. As I said, FEMA's there. We're going to be there, and I'm sure working in this body with our colleagues, Senator Coburn and Senator Inhofe, to do our best to reach out to our fellow Americans who have a real tragedy. And this is a tragedy where all the American people can step up and help by doing what we do when these disasters strike.